All right, so we are kicking off part 2 of this Notion for Content Creators 4-part series. And in the first part of the series, I showed you how do you set up your main database so you can capture all of your ideas for content creation. Then you can actually plan them out on a calendar and pick when you are going to have that content out. And just what are you going to track? What are the different properties? How do you want to sort or filter and search? We created some templates. And so today in part 2, this is where I want to spend some time on these recurring content tasks. Because if you are a content creator, you know that week after week after week, you're repeating these same processes over and over. And so we want to make sure things don't fall through the crack, which I have 100% been guilty of, where I just maybe forget to send an email letting people know that I have a new video or that I'm going to be live, or something else just falls through the cracks. We don't want that to happen. We want to be able to capture all the different steps, and there are many ways that you can do this. So I'm going to show you a few different options, which is part of the reason that I love Notion, is that you can actually customize it and see it the way you want to see it. So some people might just love seeing a checklist where they can just see exactly what the next step is and they don't actually have to check them off. Other people really love that sense of completion when you can actually mark a task as checked off. So if we head into, let's take a look at so part 1, and I'm going to bump this up a little bit. Let me get a little bigger. Okay, here we go. So in part 1, we took a look at making the database, the property, the views, filters, sorting, templates, etc. And if you have not seen that, the link I believe is in the description so you can check out part 1. For part 2, let's take a look. This is where we want to think about your content creation process. So what are the actual steps that you repeat over and over, and capturing those? And then the other thing is, how do we maybe potentially link a database? Not everyone is necessarily going to want to do this, and I'll explain the different options. But for those of you who actually do want you do want to track it this way, by having a related database, which is what I do. I have a task database, and I can connect my tasks to my content. And so I will show you how you can do that. And then how do we deal with recurring tasks? Because there are a few different options for how you want to handle a recurring task, and connecting it so that you can see when I open my content for today, I can actually see all of the tasks that are associated with making this piece of content actually happen. So that is what we are going to do. If you are here live joining me, I would love if you can say hello in the chat. And for anyone who has never met me before, my name is Kat, and typically my content is how you can create more professional and engaging online presentations, but I really have a love for Notion, and I know there are a lot of other content creators who are looking for a way to better organize their information, and this is one option. So I want to show people how you can actually use Notion to do this, customize it so it works for you and supports your content creation process. That's really, you want to be productive. This is an all-in-one app that can help you be productive. So how do you actually do that? And hello, I always get nervous. Is it Jorg? Sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name, but thank you for joining me. And Yuval. So we've got a few different, we've got India, Germany, and London. And so greetings from Canada today. Okay, so let's get back into the build. And so as you will see, I have this same workspace, which is completely dedicated to this live build series. And we're going to go back to this content creation dashboard. So I have not touched this since last Saturday. We are going to build on top of it. And this is, and today I think I'm gonna show you a few different ways that you can set up your dashboard. And yeah, and you can also give me input. If you would like to see a certain setup, this is dynamic, and it's meant to be dynamic and showing you how you can customize this. And oh, I see Igor from Brazil. Wow, this is an international group that we have today. All right, so last week we built the content database. I showed you how you can have your unscheduled content, so things that don't have a date can be beside, and you can drag these things back and forth. Here I have an empty one that I did not finish completing, so I'm going to just click that and delete that. And I showed you an example last week of how you can have a separate, so this is an ideas database, which you could add an idea and just drag this idea up into your content database, and how you can easily transfer information between databases. So now we are going to talk about your tasks. And so the first thing I recommend, highly recommend, when you are doing following content creation processes, is that you want to capture them first. So it's like an SOP, a standard operating procedure. There's a thing that you do over and over. And the way I like to think of it is, if you were to maybe bring someone in to help you and they watched what you did each week to make sure that you're creating that regular content, maybe it's not every week, but you would want them to know what is every single step. What are the key different areas? And then I also like to break them into things. So let's actually start capturing some of these areas. And what I'm going to do on this dashboard is I'm actually going to create a new area up here. So and I'm going to do the same just to make this look nice. I'm going to create a sub page. Now there are a few different ways that you can do this, but let's just first focus on capturing what are the things that you have to do to make your content. So let's say that it's the content creation process. And I'm Canadian, sometimes I say process and people laugh. So you can just type text into a block, and you can change this into a page. So you can either say turn into page, add as subpage, or you could say turn into page. Either of those work. So now this is a new page. I'm going to go into it, and this is where we are going to just capture the process. So I'm just going to make a list, and I am going to use the to-do list. So if you just do a slash and then start to type to-do list, you'll see it there. I'm going to use video as an example, and I'm just going to jot down a bunch of different things that I do. But if you see something that maybe is a regular part of creating a video, please feel free, if you are here live, to put this in the chat and I can always add it. But one of the things that when I always start with an idea, so I would not necessarily have idea generation down here, but one of the things that I always do is keyword research. So if I am going to be creating a video, let's say about Notion, I want to make sure I use TubeBuddy. If I go in there and I actually look up what are the keywords that I should be using, what are people searching for? Sometimes I might also do research in Google. So you can go into Google and see how are people searching. The other one that I love is Answer the Public, which you can do I think 2 different searches for free every day. So I do some keyword research, and then I want to confirm the title. And I usually confirm my title, and I use SEO optimization. And that is something I also do. Am I spelling that right? No, I'm not. Optimization, oh, geez. Okay. There we go. SEO optimization. So these are all things that are TubeBuddy related. So that is something that I do. So we're just kind of following along. And then the other thing I want to do is maybe create an outline for the video. What are the main points that I am talking about? What else do I have? Let me just peek here at my list. I'm gonna just check here. What other things? So if it's a live stream, I create a thumbnail. So it does matter. Actually, let's put a title. So I'm going to just say bold, and I'm going to say live stream. But and I'm just going to move this block. You can just drag the block above. So now I know that I'm talking about a live stream. So here, this is where I will create a thumbnail, and then I will schedule the live, and then I will share that link. So I usually put it into a Google Calendar that I have with all of my stuff. And then if it's a live stream, I want people to know about it. So I will often, post or actually send email to my list. So you can see what I'm doing really is capturing all of the different steps. Post to Twitter. So these are just examples. So I'm promoting. Then on when I'm actually preparing, I want to, I call it prep and create, so the live stream assets. So do I need to create overlays? In my case, I use Ecamm to go live. Do I need to create a new overlay, set up scenes? So these are all things that I'm doing in advance. maybe I need to get links for other videos. And if I'm sharing a link, like I don't actually know if I put it in today's, but I can add it, is I have a Notion template. So really I want maybe external resources. What are all the things you can do? Okay, so you get the idea. The other thing is maybe after a live stream, after the video does its thing and is finally processed, then I will trim the live stream and I can add chapters, which I did add chapters to last week's stream. It took a really long time. So add chapters. So these are all sorts of things that you can do. Maybe you want to add tags, and end cards. This is specific to YouTube. Okay, so what I have just done is created a big list. Then I like to think, when do I do these? Do I group them together? Because there's a really good chance that I'm going to do a bunch of this together, then I'll stop, and then I might do another thing. I don't do all of this. Obviously, I can't do all of this at once, but there are some of these that I definitely will group. And so having different groupings is really helps me. So maybe my first area is called prep live stream. And so I'm going to do the keyword research, the title, the outline, maybe the thumbnail, scheduling the live, and adding the calendar. But when it comes to promotion, that's separate. So I would say promote live stream. This is where I would send an email, post to my Facebook page, post to Twitter. That's separate. Then what I would do is this is more of my, I call it kind of prep and create assets. This is where I'm putting together what it is that I'm going to have. I'm setting up my Ecamm. I'm adding in overlays if I need them. So I do all of that together. So I've only got a couple there. And then this is, actually, I think I would put the links. So you can drag this up. I would put the other links here up when I'm preparing it, because I would want that to be in the description. And then these trimming the live streams, adding chapters, adding all these end cards. This is sort of a post live stream. I don't know, we'll call it cleanup. So you can see that there are a number of different categories, and you can easily, if you want, you can make these into headings or bold them, or I can just kind of add a little bit more of a visual representation. So I think this is a really, really important part of getting organized, is making sure what are the things that I repeat over and over. And this can apply to any content. If you are creating a blog, what are the steps? If you are creating a podcast, what are the steps? No matter what kind of content you are creating, you are obviously going to follow steps. And when you do this exercise, sometimes you will see that there are things that you do differently. And actually, when I look at this list, I realize that I almost always am working on my outline right before I create my assets. So I very rarely am sitting down and writing an outline when I'm just looking at keyword research and my thumbnail and getting a link. Those tend to group together for me, whereas when I usually create an outline right before I start to create the assets, the overlays, and putting together my scenes. So you have to listen to what you do and what works for you, because it's not going to be the same for everyone. And as you look through this list, you might realize, actually, there's something that I could do in a different order, and that would be better for me. So this is a really helpful thing if you have not sat down and done this. And if you're ever struggling with this, I would say pretend like another person is going to read the list. Would they understand? Are there things that you're just actually not including that you really should be including in there when it comes to your regular content creation? Now, this would look different for a recorded video, because I am going to film the video. I'm going to, well, I don't actually edit very many of my videos, but you're probably going to maybe you want to put it into something like Descript and actually get the transcript of it. And then maybe you take that and you turn that into other content, or you create an audiogram that you can post on social media. So all of those different things, you want to try and capture what it is. And even if you're not doing all the steps, it might be nice to capture what you want to do. So another example is that maybe post live stream, or maybe another area for me is a blog about the video, which is something I want to do. I've struggled with the time. I don't know. Let me know if anyone else struggles with doing all the things you wish you could do. You have a wish list of the ideal content creation, but that's not actually what happens. So now that we have done this, this is where we're going to start to take a look, and I'm just going to peek at my little list here because I don't want to miss anything, is that you could theoretically have a little content creation area. Now I'm going to just delete blog post for the purpose of this example. But let's say that when it comes to content creation, you just like to see a checklist. And so what we could do is sort of organize this and have it show up somewhere. So if you're looking at your dashboard, maybe this is where you come to just plan. So maybe the dashboard is primarily planning, where you are scheduling the dates and making sure that all of your ideas are translated and they're organized. But then maybe you actually have sort of this content creation area where each week you can check in here and see what's up or what's next for your to do. Let's actually change this to full width and show an example of how you might kind of lay it out. So one of the things you can do is grab some of these and we can start making columns. Oh, no, I don't want that. I want it to go beside prep live stream. So what I'm doing here is, so last week we talked about columns. So when you grab blocks, because each of these is a block, I'm grabbing them together and now I'm dragging them up under live stream because now we have 2 columns. But maybe I want to create another column. So I want to see these different steps beside each other. So you can start to grab these and organize them in a way where you're actually starting to see. Now, prep live stream is the longest one out of these, but it's a way that you can have your information organized so that you can see what are the different things. So perhaps you also want to maybe make these look a little bit nicer. You could turn them into a heading and have all of these just be headings. Oops. And I think there's a faster way to do this. I'm just not remembering at the moment what that is. So this is an example. For some people, this would be perfectly fine, where all they need to do is they see their, okay, what are the things I have to do this week? So they might have their piece of content and they just look at this list just to make sure that everything they have done is correct. And I'm going to actually change the page properties to make this slightly smaller and then have a bit more room on this page. So now you can see an example of putting together a live stream. Maybe I want this to be a heading, maybe heading 2, and I could have this have a background if I wanted to kind of delineate. And then maybe I want to replicate this, and I'm not going to do the whole thing, but if I duplicate, which if you weren't here last week, hold down Option or the Alt key when you grab this and you can duplicate it. So maybe this one would be recorded video. So here's an example where then you can just create what are all of the steps. So this is just a way that you can get organized, but it's also setting you up for how do you want to work with this information? Do you like to just go in and this is a visual checklist? Maybe you never actually check this off. And I've seen people where all they want to do is be able to scan through this checklist and make sure that they've done all of the steps in their checklist. That is great if that works for you. Now, for some people, like myself, I like to actually check things off. And what we can start to do is turn these into tasks. And so when it comes to tasks, before I get into tasks, I actually do want to say something you could do with this. Let's say that you want to make sure you do this checklist every single week. If you remember last week, we made a template. And so what I am going to do is actually grab all of this. Okay, wait, first, please hold. I'm going to go, so we've got templates in this content database. We have templates and we have one that's called new YouTube live stream. And so something we can do is we can edit this template and we could add, so here we have the outline, but maybe we have, I'm going to just do Option, drag above it, and I can say here is the checklist. And we actually want to add the checklist here. So let's do that. Now I have everything on the other page, so I could theoretically copy it and maybe paste it, but I could also, so let's actually try that and just see what happens if we copy these lists. And let's just try a copy. I'm kind of, I didn't practice this. So let's just see if this works. So if I go checklist, paste. Okay. So here we have this checklist. So you could theoretically have every single template, every time you have a new live, you could have this checklist right in your template, and that could be a good way to have everything, follow everything. Now, if we want this checklist to kind of be able to tuck into a toggle so that it's not so long, we could do that. So maybe we have, let's actually just turn this into a toggle. And then I can grab all of these things, grab all of the checklists and drag them into here. So now when I click checklist, you can see all of the things that I want to check. So this is a really great option if you just want to be able to track your content. You start your new template. So let's see an example. So let's go back and say, I want a new live stream. So as we set up last week, you have your icon here. You've got the type already populated here as live stream idea YouTube. But now down here, you have your checklist for all of the tasks. And you could actually go and you can check these off as you complete them, because this is a template. So this is fresh. You're not overriding it in somewhere else. So if we go on and let's just call this Notion for Task Management is maybe the name of this video. So we've got that one here. And then I say, you know what, I have another idea, a new live stream. And this one will be called the new Notion API, which very exciting. On Thursday, Notion released its beta API. So yes, I have absolutely been playing with the new API and integrating Notion into different things. So maybe I want a video about this. If I go down to this checklist, it's a fresh start. So this is one great option for making sure that you are tracking all of the things that you need to do and have your checklist directly in the template. So that is an option for you. So I wanted you to see that. But you could also keep this content creation process page, and maybe you are always keeping a running tally. And if you make a change to it and say, you know what, I actually don't like the order that I'm doing this, I want to do this differently. Maybe in your prep and create, you have a new step that you have. And so each week, something that I do is update title animation. So maybe I want to actually capture that, because perhaps there was a week when I was rushed and I started my live stream and I realized I didn't actually do that part. And so you can easily keep track of this, and then you can always just highlight, as we did before, highlight everything and then update and edit your template. So hopefully that makes sense. Also, I see Patrick has joined and Lee has joined. And oh yeah, I'm so hyped about the new API. You can sync Google Calendar with Notion. Yes, that was one of the first things I did is I started trying to send. So I was using Zapier and sending calendar entries. So new calendar entries showed up in, for me, I chose the task management database. So I could see all the things I have to do today, my tasks and my meetings all show up, and I can check them off when they're done, which feels really good, because that for me is how I like to track things. The other one I played with is having a Google form update a database. And I'm gonna play around a little bit more before I actually commit to anything. And I practiced sending a tweet to my social media database. A lot of fun. Maybe I'll do a separate, there are videos on the API if anyone's curious to learn about it. It's very, very new. And there are a few different things that have the integrations set up, but super exciting. Okay, so this is a checklist. Great way to make sure that you're capturing your tasks. Now, the next thing, I'm just checking my list because I did make more of an outline for today's video than I did last week. And so we've added the checklist to your database. Here's another thing that you can do. So maybe we actually want each of these steps to be in, instead of just on a page. Right now, they're just text on a page. You could also have your SOP or your standard operating procedures in a database. So let's see an example of that. So I'm just going to delete this as an example. So I'm going to start a gallery database, and I'll show you why. So I'm starting to type database. I want a gallery. So when you see the default gallery view, why is this gallery card so huge? What? Yeah, that's a little bit. Okay, that was strange. All right, so whenever you start a new inline gallery, which is just one of the views for seeing your information, you'll actually see that they show the content of this entry. So this page content shows up in this little preview window. You can change that. So maybe if you had thumbnails or something, you could do that. But maybe let's call this, content creation process. And what I'm going to do is actually bring these into, so these are just 3 blank pages. So I can always come in here and just delete this. But maybe this first one, so let's try something. Let's grab prep livestream and drop it into this database. No, not in that one. Okay, let's delete these. Now let's, and it disappeared. Hold on. Okay, control. I'm going to just cheat because I did that wrong. Let's just take this and name this prep livestream. So that's the new one, is prep livestream. And then I can delete this. Now what I want to do is take all of these prep live stream things and I'm going to drop these into here. Now you can see prep live stream. These are the different steps. This one, these though, I'm going to delete and I'm going to start fresh. So this block I want to become an item. So now prep and create assets has just become an item in the database. And that is, I'm out of order, aren't I? I just grabbed a block here. I'm going to drop these in here. And then I have promote a live stream. I'm going to drag that in here and all of the things for promoting the live stream. Let's drop them here. So you can see how easy it is to just drag and drop information into tables. These are out of order, but we can always update this. So now I've got, and actually this is the live stream process, but there might be different ways for me to organize this. So let's play around with this. So we have our prep. I actually would promote maybe before I prep all the assets, or maybe you do this in a different order. You can drag these around. But this is an example of how you can now organize this process or this standard operating procedure using Notion and using an actual database instead of a list. And if we want to see this in different ways, we can do that. So maybe we want to see it in a table view and we can say create, and you can see them all here. And we see that there's content inside. The thing about the gallery view is you can see all of the actual steps. So this could be a nice reference guide for you. And we could try making it a little smaller, and instead of large, medium or small. Now small, you start to lose some of the pieces. So I probably wouldn't do small. I would probably stick with something like a medium or large. But this is an example of how you can organize yourself and see what are the tasks that you have to do and actually put them into a database. Yes. So Lee is saying you sent a tweet from Notion. I did. So that was a zap that I created. I connected my Twitter to Zapier, and then I had it sent, and I've got Notion obviously linked to Zapier, and I sent it over and it worked. I was pretty excited, but I am running out of zaps. So I need to decide whether I want to continue using Zapier as my main automation tool, or because I have to start paying. But then I was looking at a video yesterday on Automate.io, which is another integration that Notion has. So I might switch it up. Okay, so here we have the other one. So this is one way that you can organize the different steps, is to have all of these in there. Now, the reason I am showing you this is because I want you to see that there are different ways to represent your recurring tasks that are related to what you're doing. And I personally like to block these out, because if I had a task list that was all of those little boxes, that to me is a little overwhelming. And because I usually do a few of these tasks together at once, I personally like to be able to focus. So if I say, okay, I'm prepping the live stream right now, I can go in and I can start to check these off. Now this right now is one database, and it only happens once. Whereas when we were in that template, each time you do a new template, you get a new checklist, which is nice. So for some people, maybe this is all they need just to remind themselves of how they organize their content. And maybe let's do an example where I'm going to actually move this table and I'm going to put it into my content dashboard. So now if I go to my content dashboard, it's down here, but I could actually take this block and I could move it up maybe here. Actually, let's move it up. Why are they? This is a weird quirk. Not gonna lie. Let's do a little change again. So this could be an example where maybe you just like to see this at the top. Maybe you don't. I personally don't think I would really like this, but this could be an example of how you could organize your information and kind of show it at the top. So, okay. Hi, Bobby. Thanks for joining. Patrick, excited about the API. What's this here? I'm going to write something real quick where you can update all the content in a website for, ooh, that's exciting. And Sync Spider. I haven't heard of Sync Spider. Is that an integration? But I don't know if it's an integration yet with Notion. Because yeah, Notion, it's just the beta API, so it's not fully out yet. I also realize I'm kind of low down in my, there we go. Okay. That was an example where I've just moved this over, but I actually don't like it there. So I'm going to move it back into this page that we created and kind of play with it here. So let's talk about a task database. This right here is more what I just created, this content creation process. This is more of a database that just captures your actual standard operating procedures, your recurring tasks. But if you are already using Notion, there's a very good chance you have a task database where you actually track what are the different tasks that I'm doing. And if that's the case, you may be interested in having your content-related tasks in your master task database. I know I do. If you do not have a task database, so maybe you are using Notion just for projects or just to capture ideas or information, maybe you're just using it for content creation, you might not have a master task database. And so you have to decide, what is it that you want to do? How do you want to track your content? So for many people, it might be something like this, where you just have a checklist in your table and that's how you organize it and make sure that you're not missing anything week to week when you are creating your content. However, if you want to actually have tasks that you check off as complete, you may want to create a task database. So let's actually create a new task database, and I'm going to create a new page where a sub page. So let's just, this will be a task database. And you have a couple options. Like I said last week, you can either turn this entire page into a database, or this could be a page where you add a database inline. For the purpose of this demonstration, I'm just going to create a task database here. And really what you want to do is figure out, what do you want to track for your tasks? So there's the name of your task. You might have a status potentially. I don't use the status of my task. It's either complete or not complete. So let's actually add a checkbox and we can call this done. So is the task done or not? And you can move this around. Maybe I want done to be actually at the start of my task database. However, this is the original database. You may not actually go in here very often. You might just be pulling your tasks from somewhere else, and you'll see what I mean by that in a moment. So there's the name of your task. I have just started doing this recently, but I like to have the type of task. And this is if you have more than one type of task, you might want to do this. And this could either be a select or a multi-select. So let's do a select where there's actually content creation is one of your tasks. Maybe though, you also have admin tasks that you complete. Maybe you have, trying to think of other examples. So for me, I actually work with clients, so I have client related tasks. So you can see that there could be different types of tasks that you have to do. And I have like this. You do not need to do this, but it's something that you can think about. The other thing that you might want to consider for tasks, I like this, is what's the mental effort? Like how much focus do I need for this task? And for this, I have a drop down. It's a select because I can only pick one. I actually like to use little brains for this. So And I created a little shortcut for brains. So maybe it's only one brain, like creating a new link for a video. That's pretty easy. Maybe it's 2 brains. And let's do that. And then let's just create the other ones. And if anyone's wondering, I'm using Alfred. Also, I don't like how they're overlapping, so I'm going to create a space between them. Let's go edit this guy. There we go. And now let's create a third one, which is 4 brains. This feels so silly, but I love it. All right, so now we've created. So this is also an example that you don't have to only have words in your drop downs. You can have little icons in your drop down, which is great. So that's something I like. Another thing is maybe time and how long does it take? How long of a task? This is something I only started doing recently. Now I know, so I've taken the course Notion Mastery with Marie Poulin, and she has little tomatoes because of the Pomodoro method, which is traditionally a tomato timer. But let's pick a different one where maybe we use clocks. So I'm gonna open my little thing here and let's search clock. Okay, so let's do a little clock. And I don't have a shortcut for this. So maybe if it's under half an hour, it's 1 clock, and then we can add another one, clock. And if you aren't aware, if you are on a Mac, at least if you do Control Command Space, you can get this little emoji window. I'm not going to do all of them, but is it a 1 clock? Is it a 2 clock? So you could do that. I also actually, for really quick tasks, for under 10 minutes, I actually like to have a little lightning bolt. Oh, what's the lightning bolt called? Oh, there it is. Oh, it just went away. There we go. So I have this one as well. So if it's a really quick task, and I like seeing this, I like to see if something's gonna be really quick because I can sort my tasks for quick wins, things that are really, really fast that I can get done quickly. So that's really really easy. Can you copy and paste the icon instead of selecting it each time? Maybe. But I find copy and paste is probably the same number of clicks, perhaps, maybe not. Okay, and I would have this first really quick, and then maybe do your clocks. And that's another example. So really what you're doing is for your tasks is you're deciding what are the properties. So sort of like last week, what are the things that I want to be able to track? I'm going to just quickly click on one of mine to see what else. You can also do things like priority. Is it a high priority or is it a lower priority? If you use David Allen's Getting Things Done, or GTD for short, you might have things like context. Is this at home? Is this an errand? Do I need to call somebody? So is there a type of follow-up that's required? I have a thing called studio. So do I need to have my studio in order to do it with the camera on and everything set up? Because I can sort what are all the studio tasks that I have coming up. Maybe I can bulk some of those tasks together. So context is one area that you can do. Oh, date. So this is something, so August Bradley, who is another Notion consultant, an expert, he has this example, he calls it due date. And instead of DUE, DO, like the date you're going to do the task. You know, I love it. I adopted this and realized, and I used to have a due date and a deadline, and I just ditched the deadline. So now what's the date I'm actually going to do this task, which is different than your content because your content is released on a content calendar, like an editorial calendar. That's different. But the task itself, I like to have the DO, the due date. So that heads up, or that's hat tip to August Bradley for that. I like having a due DO date. Does anyone else do that? Let me know. And Mark, hello. Thanks for joining. What else do I have in here? If you are using Notion for work and personal, another one that you might want to, I actually call this work or personal because I do track my work and personal tasks. So it'll be one or the other. So I can say it's a work task or I can say it's a personal task. And we'll just kind of delete those options. And you can kind of have these in your templates. If you have a task template, you can always just have it default. You have work tasks and personal tasks, and then you don't have to always select it every single time. And I see a question here from Lee. Do you make specific time of week or day where you map out your tasks and content? I do, and you will see an example of that today. What else? Oh, I like to have for tasks, I usually have a little text column just called note or notes. And this is if I want to say something about the actual task. And let's actually make this, oh, never mind. So I just wanted to see a little bit more of this. So I like to have something in there where if I need to have a description, so I might not want to put it in the title, but I want to be able to capture something quickly about the note, I will have that. And also I'm a fan, this is from David Allen's Getting Things Done as well. I have something called waiting for, meaning I have to wait for someone else to get back to me or to do something or to take action before I can actually do something. And if you are collaborating with another person, you might be waiting on another person in order to move forward with something. So this is, I have a checkbox. Either I'm waiting for someone or I'm not. And I could always put in the notes, I could say who I'm waiting for. Maybe I need someone to review something of mine and before I can take action. And I'm trying to think what else. I also have my tasks connected to my projects database, but we're not going to get into that today. But if you have a projects database, there's a good chance you have tasks and projects related together, sort of like content and tasks can be related to each other. And we're not going to do the relation just yet, but we will. And those are all the big things. So this is now my task database that I have here. I'm going to just kind of delete a couple of these. So something that Notion is currently not great with is recurring tasks. So when you use a project manager like Asana, probably ClickUp, I haven't used ClickUp personally, but I have used Asana, I have used Trello. There are ways to have recurring tasks. Because Notion is really an all-in-one workspace and it's not designed to be exclusively a task manager, it doesn't have recurring tasks. Now, last week I showed you can duplicate tasks. So if I did have a task that was called trim live stream that I do every single week, theoretically, I could duplicate this. So when you click on it, you could say duplicate, but it creates that little copy, which I don't love because then I would want to go back and change this. When it comes to, if you are using a task database and you want to track all of the things that you do, we could set it up. If I go back here and I look at this content creation, you could have something like this where I have entries that are similar to these that are in my task database. So the example, if we go back, let's actually take a look. Actually, I'm going to click on this and I'm going to move this to my task database. So let's go now back and look at my task database. So now I have prep live stream. I've moved it. It used to be in that content creation process. Now it's in this one. So you can easily move items. So now all of the properties that I just created for task show up for prep live stream. All of the content that was in the body shows up here as well. And so I could have this prep live stream as a task in my task database. And let's say that it's a recurring task. And maybe I don't want to recreate a new one. I just want to have this task so that each week I can just look at what I have to do. So what you could do, let's say that on Monday, I had prep live stream. And then Monday comes up, I go through and I actually do all of these things. What I could do is just say, okay, and I'm going to do this again next Monday and just update the date. So now when I look at the date, I'll see the next time I have to prep live stream. This is independent. It means it's a recurring task. I would not be checking off these boxes because all I'm doing is just using this as a placeholder so that on May the 24th, when I look at my task list, I can see, okay, today I have to prep for my live stream. I can open this up and sort of keep track. That is one option. That is not what I do, but that is an option for people. Whereas for me, I'm actually recreating tasks over and over again, and I will show you how I do that. So the point is, because I feel like I'm not doing a great job at describing this, if you have a task database, maybe you have other stuff in here. So let's say that I need to, call my internet service, which I did last week, and I have a new modem. So call my internet service. This is an administrative task. This, frankly, calling a cable company for me is a lot of effort, whereas trimming the live stream is actually very short effort. I'm going to delete that one. This is admin, etc. So you can actually start to build out this task database, and some are related to content and some are not. So one of the ways that if we actually are using this properly, these are content creation tasks, and then I can have my admin tasks, and you can have your task database. And as we learned last week, you can actually have it show up. So maybe in our content dashboard, we want to see all of our tasks that are coming up. Now in this dashboard, I personally like to have a page where I can see all of my scheduled content, my unscheduled content, but let's do an example where I want to see my actions maybe at the top, and maybe we actually want to put them up here. I don't know that we actually would want to, but we can create a linked database. And so this will be our task database. And I'm going to just do a little list view of this database. And as we learned last week, it gets a little squishy. So I like to move it over a bit. And then here is where I can filter this and say, add a filter where type is content creation. So now what happens is I see all of my tasks that are related to content creation on this content creation dashboard. And maybe I don't want to see that it's about content creation because it's filtered that way. So I can turn off type, but maybe I can have the due date, or maybe I can have the little done button show up. And then this is a way where I'm creating a dashboard where I can see my scheduled content. I can see my ideas on the right side. I can have my tasks that are associated with content up here. So this is an example of where, yes, there is an original task database. It probably wouldn't even live on this dashboard. It would probably, let's just actually drag it here. And I'm going to put it, my head is covering it a bit. But here you can see now I've got my Notion for content creators. Let's actually move, I'm going to move this content up to the top, maybe my task database up. It doesn't want to move. You want a line. Let's move this down. Okay, so, and then I'm going to change the icon. This is a task management. So let's do a little check. So we've got our content dashboard. We have our task database. This is my content creation, what we're doing in this. And I've got my sandbox. So here's an example where because I wouldn't want my task management to live as a subpage in my content dashboard. Let's move that over a bit more. This content creation process, I might want to have here, or maybe I want to tuck this down. Maybe I want to have it underneath the calendar at the bottom, because maybe I don't want to actually access it. So here's an example now where I have my scheduled content. I've got my upcoming tasks that are related to content tasks, and then I have my content here. So I can still do this, what I was doing last week, where we drag our ideas onto the page. I'm going to take a look at the comments. So is it possible to set a reminder? Yes. So if you have, let's go back to the task database, and we want to, if you have a date, so maybe I am trimming, so for example, tomorrow I'm going to trim this live stream down and trim the countdown timer out. So I'm going to do this tomorrow, and I can actually, down here, I can say remind and say on the day of the event, 1 day before the event, 2 days before the event, 1 week before the event. So you could do that on the day of the event. Now that there is an API, you could also maybe have this sent to you, sent to your calendar, etc. I haven't played around enough to know all the ways, but now I've set a reminder. The other thing you can do is you can have a reminder in the content. So let's do another example where for prep live stream, you can actually say, remind me tomorrow. And I've actually now embedded it here. So it's not in the due date, but it is in here. So I'm going to get a reminder about this item tomorrow. So that's kind of a cool option. I personally don't use a lot of the reminders because I use a dashboard where I can see exactly which stuff is for that day instead of using the reminders personally. That's just my preference, but you can do that 2 different ways. And I see Shane, I just started using Notion, mind blown, such a useful tool, isn't it? It's so great. Calling a cable company, you don't have enough space for all the brains, right? I remember, I think it was Amy Schumer did a video about calling the cable company that made me laugh. How do you make it show in your calendar? So do you want to confirm for me whether you mean showing up like using the API, or do you mean showing it up in a Notion calendar? Because we can actually have a task database. So I can show you here where you can have your tasks show up in a calendar view where you can see your tasks. You will not have these show up with your content because these are in two separate databases. So your tasks live in one, your content lives in another. They do not show up together, in case that is a question that you're wondering about. I know people have asked, can they see everything all together? The answer is no. Right now, that is not an option. But for API, you can send information from a database to your calendar. I just don't know, because it's so new. I don't know if you have to have a time associated with it or not, or if it would just show up as a date. So you'd have to, you'll have to play. It's so new. Okay. When it comes to the tasks, so something I want to now focus on, looking at my checklist again. Okay, with the tasks, you could have it where I click on this and I just update this each week. So I already showed you that. As soon as, maybe instead of clicking that I'm done, I actually just say, okay, now I'm going to do the next one next week, because I know that next Saturday I'll have a live stream. I'm going to have to trim my live stream again. So now I have this and the reminder stays, or I could say I don't want a reminder anymore. So I could just keep updating this, and this is one option. The other option, as you saw, is you can duplicate it, but again, you have to change the name. So you have to take off the copy. There is another way that you can create recurring tasks, and that's with a template button. And this is something I did for a while. So let's actually go. I'm trying to think of the best way to do this. Let's say that I had down here, I started a new, maybe I want to actually, let's give this a heading, and we're going to call this content creation tasks. So under my content creation tasks section, I want to have my, sort of like what we're doing up here. Let's have our recurring tasks. I'm going to actually have here's another trick. If you do 3 of these, you can do why didn't that work? You can do a heading again. I'm sorry, I feel flustered. Okay, content creation tasks. Let's just call this recurring tasks. And what we are going to do is create a button in here. But first, I'm going to create a column. And this is going to be a linked table. So this will be another heading. So I'm going to copy this heading and drag it here. And this will be the content creation task calendar. This will come together sort of like mimicking up here, but we're going to do it a different way. So under this task calendar, I'm creating a linked database. This will be my task database. This has just bumped down because I didn't put it in the column yet. So I want to have an actual calendar here. So let's create this calendar. And I'm going to actually delete this table view because I want this to always be a calendar. So let's delete the table view. So now what we're left with, this is the task database. It is pulling all of the tasks that have a date that we can see are on this calendar. And then beside here, I'm actually going to have my recurring tasks. And so this is where I am going to cheat a little bit, and I am going to copy. So this was a prep live stream. This is one that we made. I'm going to get rid of this reminder, and I'm actually going to pull this out just as a page. So if I pull this out of the task, now it's just prep live stream has our little checklist that we created. And I'm also going to send these. So I'm selecting all of these, and then I'm going to move all of these to my content dashboard. So now if I go, so I've basically just cleared this out because we're playing. Now all of these will show up at the bottom. So let's grab all of these. Basically what I'm trying to do is not recreate work. I don't want to have to rewrite all of these, but these are now recurring tasks. And let's give these icons just because we can. So maybe I want all of these just to have a little check mark icon just so that they look a little bit nicer. Okay, so we have all of these tasks. Let's create a template button. So a template button, I mentioned it last week, but if you start to write the word template, you'll see template button come up. And this is a workaround for doing recurring tasks. This is one option. I'm going to show you another option as well. But I can call this recurring content tasks. And then in here, I want to just have a blank block. This is just a quirk, and press enter. Then I'm going to grab these 4 items and drop them in here. I want to keep a block. It's just a quirk. I don't know if they fixed it, but you want to have one blank one and then the rest of these. And actually, I'm just going to delete that. So now I have these recurring tasks in a template button. And the way a template button works is that each time you press this button, it will just dump out the contents of that button. So let's click recurring tasks. Now I have these 4 tasks. If I click it again, I now have these 4 tasks again. If I click it again, these show up again. So I'm creating new ones. I'm duplicating them, but I don't have copy of prep live stream happening over and over and over again. That's where having this template button is helpful. So I'm going to delete these extra ones. And so now what you can do is you can have this template button and you can just go and drag, okay, maybe Monday, I'm going to prep the live stream. Maybe on Tuesday, I'm going to create my assets. Maybe I'm also on Tuesday going to promote my live stream, and maybe on Thursday, this is assuming I have a Wednesday live stream, I'm going to do my post cleanup. So now when you open these, you'll see the date is attached to it. Now, let's take this one further. So now let's say that every time I do this post live stream cleanup, which is trimming it, adding chapters, adding tags, this is something, now I actually would probably break these up because when you trim the live stream, then it needs to process and then I have to add chapters later. So I would probably separate these, but just for the purpose of today, I'm going to leave them together. Is you can actually, let's put some tags on this. So the length of this is probably going to, with adding all of the chapters, trimming, etc. Let's say I want to give myself an hour to do this post live stream cleanup. I think it takes maybe just a little bit of mental effort to create all of the chapters properly. The type is content creation, and this is, I consider this work. Maybe you have a personal channel and you consider it personal. Fill out all of those. And we want to do the same thing for these. So the length of prepping and creating, maybe this is probably longer than an hour. The mental effort, maybe it takes a little bit more mental effort for this. This is content creation and this is work. What else? We've got promote. Maybe promoting doesn't take as long. Maybe the mental effort's not as much. The type is content creation and this is work. So you can see what I'm doing is just filling in all of these. Prep live stream, maybe that takes me, maybe that'll take a little longer. So what you're doing is just deciding what are the different fields, because it's recurring, it's going to be the same each time. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab these and bring them back because I just gave them all of those properties. When I open this, it's a page again because it's no longer living in a database. However, if I bring it back and open it, it's retained all of those properties. The reason I'm doing this is because I'm going to update this button. So I go click on this icon and I'm actually going to replace all of these. So let's just drag these to the top and then I will just delete these 4. So let's delete this one, delete, delete, and delete. So now I have these. So I've just updated my content template button so that when I close now, let's say next week, when I click on this and I drag these into the different dates, let's just kind of repeat a similar thing that we did before. Now, when you open any of them, they have all of the different fields that you want. So you don't have to do this over and over and over again. So that is one option for, you're using the same principle of having your calendar and having, but this time you have a task or a template button, and you're just adding these tasks into your calendar, and you can do that on a weekly basis. Okay, so thanks, Lee, for joining. I don't know if you're gone already. That's an option that you can have, and you can always move this button up to the top. So I don't know if that appeals to anyone, but this is what I did for a long time, is I actually, each week, I would go in, I would hit this template button, and then I would drag them over into the task database. But then if I go, let's say I just click on the task database, I can see now all of these, they're in here, they've got the date, they've got all of the properties. So I am adding them, and each week you'll see a new one that's post live stream, prep the assets, all that stuff. So that's going to keep adding to this list. And then when I am done those, I can just kind of check those off and I will see them as done. And with your task database, depending on how you have it set up, you could always filter it so that all of the tasks that are done you just see the ones that aren't done. So as soon as I check it off, it disappears and I only see the active tasks that are on there. If we go back to this task database, this one is filtered so that it only has the type. So right now I'm seeing all of the ones that I've finished. Obviously, very soon this would get a little bit unruly. So I would probably filter this and add. So not only is the type content creation, I want done to be unchecked. So I only want to see what are the tasks that I have upcoming. And let's do another example where we go down here. We can look at our recurring content. Ooh. What went wrong? One of them is missing. That's weird. Okay. Oh, software. Let's try this one more time. There we go. They all showed up this time. So let's just do another week. I'm going to do the 24th. And you could always actually just drag them all and get them in the calendar and then move them around. I accidentally made an empty one. I did not mean to do that. So I could just move this. Okay, so now I've added my next week's and you can see them all show up here. So this is dynamic in that anytime something that is content creation that hasn't been done is going to show up in this little list that I have for my task database. So, and these are all content related tasks. So that's one option that you can do for having this content dashboard where you can see your schedule, you can see the tasks that are related to it, you can see the unscheduled content. This is just one option, but there are infinite possibilities for how you can organize this. Now you might be saying, okay, that's nice, but what is this for? Like, which video is this for? And this is where we want to start thinking about whether or not you want a content or you wanted a relationship between these two databases, because we have content and we have tasks. Let's actually connect them so that we know exactly which video this is referring to. You can do this either way. You can start with the content or you can start with the task. And so let's go to the content. And as I showed last week, you can change or add a property in any of the pages within a database. So I've just opened one of the videos and I'm going to add a property, and this is going to update all of them. And we are now going to, let's call this, I call it related content, because right now I want to link, or sorry, related task. I want to know which task is associated with this content. You could also just call this tasks, whatever you want. And this is a relationship. So this is where we get into the advanced types of properties. So we're going to click relationship and it says, which database do you want to link to? And so I want to link to my task database, create relation. Now we have a new property. It's called related tasks, but instead of me entering something, as soon as I click in here, it's going to pull up all the tasks. So I can search for a task and create it this way, or I can go in the opposite direction. I can go into the task. So if I did, let's say I knew that this was the task, I could click on it. Maybe I knew that the live stream cleanup and the prep the live stream, promote the live stream. So here's an example. Now the dates might not be right because I was just winging it. Yeah, this might not be the same live stream, but you can see how now all of these related tasks are now showing up in this content. So I could see for this video, I need to prep and create, I need to post, I can prep, I can promote live stream. The beauty of this is that you can click into any of these and kind of jump into that task. So if I click prep and create assets and I click on this heading, Now I can open this task. I can see that is related to the introduction to formulas in Notion. So now I'm actually in the task itself. I'm no longer in the content. I'm looking at the task. And down here, I can see all of the different things, but I can know exactly which video this is for. So that is how our relationship can help you. And let's go back to our task database just to clean this up a bit, because now what happens anytime you make a relationship between two databases, you saw that in the content database, I named it related task, but in this one, it's going to create a column that's connected in this one. So if we scan over, it gives it a default name that's related to content / related task. That's a really big, unwieldy name. So what I want to do is actually rename this. And for the task, I like to, actually, I'm just going to call it related content. You could just call it content, but I do like the word related content. So I know for this task that there is related content. Now for calling the cable company, this will be empty because it's not a content related task. So that is where you can see the content in the task database. And if I go back to this content database, I can see the relationship here when I scroll down. And if I go into a different view, so if I go into a table view here, I see all the content here. And if I scan over, now I can see that there are related tasks showing up here. And if I want that to be in a different order, I can maybe drag that. Maybe I want to see the tasks closer. So maybe I want to see the related tasks beside all my content. I could do that and I can have it show up. If you don't want it to stretch down like this, like right now, it's actually showing me every single task. In the properties, so if you click on these 3 dots, you can toggle wrap cells on or off. So maybe you don't want it to stretch out like that. You can turn this on or off for how you want to see the information. Hey, Doc, glad you could join. Team replay. Yeah, you might want to speed this video up. I feel like I am not as eloquent as I was last week. Something's going on with my brain. So you can't type and I'm having trouble speaking today. Unless someone else disagrees. This is, I feel like I'm just a little bit more tongue-tied today. Okay, so now what we've done is we've created that relationship and we have those tasks. So that's one thing. Now, when you are going, so a problem that I faced when I was doing this approach, which is where I had my recurring content tasks and I was dragging them into this task database, is that I would drag these in and then I would have to say, okay, now I need to link this. So let's go and I'm going to just go to June. And let's say we're planning our first week of June. I got my recurring content tasks that I use my little button here to create, and I want to drag those in. So I'm going to say, okay, I'm prepping my live stream on Monday. I'm going to do my assets, my promotion, and then my cleanup on Thursday. But now all of them have the date, but they're not connected to the content. And I would have to go in here individually and pick, okay, which video is this? So maybe I start to look for a video. It's slowing down on me. Oh, Notion. Sometimes you break my heart. You get the idea. And then sometimes when Notion is slow on you, it can be painful. So what I would have to do in here is go into each one. And I don't want to do that. So here is a trick that you can use. I think last week I shared that when you have a filtered database, anytime you have a filtered database, it's going to take, when you add something new, it takes on those properties. So one of the things you can do is you can actually add a view. So let's grab these and bring them back here. So we're going to add a view, and this, what I called it is by content, meaning I'm going to put a filter on this calendar. So it's going to be a calendar view again, except this time it's going to be filtered, and it's going to be filtered so that related content contains a specific page. Now, each time I do this, I'm going to change the page. So where related content equals, maybe I'm preparing for my Asana versus Notion video. So I'm going to select that. Now this is empty because right now I don't have any tasks that are assigned to that. And what I'm going to do is go to June, the first week of June. And when I drag these into, let's actually do, oops, whoa, I made a column by accident. Ignore that. what I'm going to do is drag. So I'm preparing on Monday. I'm going to do promote on Tuesday. I'm going to make my assets on Tuesday, and I'm going to do the cleanup on Thursday. I have now dragged them in, and because of this filter, now when I open these, they're actually related to that content. So that is a little hack that you can use. So now you've got the date that you're doing it, and you've connected it to this content. So if I go up to my content calendar and I click on Asana versus Notion, which actually doesn't have a date. So maybe I want this, I can pick a date, and I want this to be on the first Wednesday in June. I can now see all of the related tasks are showing up here. So that is a way where you can connect the tasks using a filter. So that is one option. And that is what I did for a while. It's not what I do anymore. I'm going to show you what I do now. I'm going to take a look at the chat here, make sure I'm not missing anything. So Bjorn says, I use Asana and ticketing systems. I see you are currently creating the same thing. Yeah, recreate. Yeah, you can always take, that's what I love about different tools. Like I won't shut my, I won't say, I don't want to hear about it. It's not a tool that I use. I'll actually look, there's a great example. So, there's someone in Doc Rock's community who was showing an amazing setup in Trello. And I was fascinated because I love to see how people's brains work. How do they like to organize information? What are the things that they're doing in order to stay organized? And we can take pieces and elements of those and then bring them into our own space. So let me show you what I actually ended up doing instead. I'm going to use the same principle. And again, this is something I learned from Maria Poulin, who is a Notion expert, who is kind of my go-to for all of these. There's another way to do this, and that is to do it in your actual content template. And this is where it starts to get pretty cool, but you'll have to follow me. So now what we are going to do is I'm going to keep editing this new YouTube live stream template. So I'm editing this template, and I am going to, so we've got this checklist, we've got our outline, and maybe we don't even need to have a heading for outline. We can just delete that and keep it a little cleaner. So we've got our checklist, we've got our show flow. The next thing we can do is I'm going to add another toggle called tasks. And what we're going to do in tasks is actually have the tasks in here as items. So I'm going to steal copies of them from from our template button. So I'm going to put these in here. And then I'm going to add a task calendar in the template itself. So let's do that. I'm going to first get out of here and go down to my template button. So I'm going to click on this template button to recreate these recurring tasks that I do every single week. And I'm going to grab these and move them to, this is where I say new YouTube. I'm searching for the name of my template. So you see new YouTube live stream. That's the name of my template. I'm going to click on that. And I don't have to worry about stealing these because I can always just recreate these down here if I want to. So now let's go back to my templates. I'm going to go edit template. And when I scroll down here, you're going to see all of the tasks that I created. So let's just move these into the toggle. So now if I open and close this toggle, you can see the tasks. Now I'm going to create another, so I'm going to create a linked database in the template. And let's actually open this as a page. I'm going to edit this template in a bigger space. So I'm going to start to create a linked database. And this is my task database. And what I'm going to do here, so this, I want to have it, personally, I like doing this in a calendar. You can do this in different ways, but I played around with a few. I like the calendar. So I'm going to create a calendar, and this is my task database. It's just another view. And I'm going to delete this one so it doesn't accidentally show up. I only want to have the calendar view personally. You can play around with this and see what you like. So now I've got a calendar view, and I'm going to add a filter on this. So just like we did before, I'm going to say filter, and I'm going to say where content, related content in this task database contains, and this is where I'm searching for new YouTube live stream because this is the template. So anytime I have a new template, I want this task database to be filtered so it only shows whatever the new template is. And I'm going to show you an example of how this works. This will be replaced with whatever I create when I start a new template. And just for ease, I'm going to create a blank space between these because I just don't want it to be so close. And I'm going to actually put this database in this toggle. So I'm going to put it underneath. So now when I open and close that, so it's just a way of keeping this neat. And if you wanted, maybe I actually like to have the tasks at the top, because it's the first thing I do is I do a new template, and then I will assign all of the tasks first. And then I could always close that up and then have the checklist and my show flow. Now I won't need the checklist anymore. For anyone who joined late, we have an example of how you can just have a checklist for all of the things you need to do each week in your template. That's a great way to stay organized. But if you have a task database, we're going to show you how to assign your tasks to that content. So I have now edited this template. So let's go back and close it. So let's create a brand new live stream template. Let me know if you're following this, by the way. Anyone who's here live. So I've just created a new live stream. Let's give it a name, and let's call it sending Google Calendar events to Notion with the new API. Okay, so I have named this sending Google Calendar events to Notion. The type is the live stream, and maybe this is something I'm going to do on June 9th. So I've given it a date. I can write a little description. And right now there are no related tasks to it because I haven't assigned tasks yet. So let's open this task, and we will see that we have a task database and the filter. Let's open this filter where related contains sending Google. You can see that the new name of this template is now in the filter. So we are now going to say, okay, this is taking place. I know it's on the 9th. And yes, I know that it's annoying that you can't see the content on the calendar, but it's because it's a different database. But I know because I just said this is going to be on June 9th. So I am going to prepare my live stream on the 7th. I'm going to do these two. Let's grab both of these, create and prep on the Tuesday. And I'm going to do that on the 10th. Now what I've done, I've moved them all here. So instead of pages, if I open them up, I've got the date and I have the video that it is related to. This is how I like to approach adding tasks to specific content. And so when I have actually cleaned up this live stream after it happens, I can check off that this is done and then is marked as complete. And if we go back, now you can see this task database, which I don't know if I would actually keep it here personally. But I've got this task database, which is filtered for content creation, and where done is open, and I can see all of the different tasks. And if I click on this, I can see that this one, oh, that's an old one. There we go. Sending Google events. So I can see exactly what it's connected to. And I could also update this. Maybe I wanted to have a table view and drag this over, and I'm going to just widen this for a moment. I'm going to change the properties of this. I'm going to put done first, but then I'm going to put related content after the name. And then I will drag this smaller, and then I can see the related content. So now what can happen, and I will also filter this so that I'm only seeing where the type of task is content creation, and I am only seeing it where done is not checked. And I'm also, there was one other thing I was going to do here, but I'm forgetting. So I'm going to leave it. Oh, something else you could do if you're planning your content out in advance is you could say, and where the date is, I could say, 1 month from now, or is on or after, or is within. So maybe I don't want to see everything. Maybe I want to see everything that's within the next week or maybe the next month. And then that way I can kind of simplify. I don't have anything next. So now I can see everything that's just coming up in the next month. And I can see which video it's related to, but this is really squishy. So I probably would not, I probably wouldn't set it up this way. I would have this if I had more room. Okay. So yes, we're on slowly building this out. So what I have done, if we can kind of recap, is that in this example, I have shown a few different options, how you can just create a checklist so you can see your content creation process. I've shown how in your video, if we take a look at this template, you could simply just have a checklist for all of your content, and that could be how you make sure that you're not missing anything and you're following all of your processes. But I did just show you an example of how you can use this task. You can add these individual tasks into your calendar, and then they will be automatically associated with that content. That is personally what I like to do. And then you can also create a different page. So maybe this is just your content planning. So you could even call this like content planning dashboard. And maybe I have, I'm just going to create a new, let's create a new page. I'm going to create a sub page under the content planning dashboard called like content creation or content tasks. I don't know. You can call it whatever you want. Maybe when you're actually taking action on it, you've got this content tasks page. And then I'm going to send this content to the content tasks page that I just made. So now on this sub page, content tasks, which will be lower down on this page, which maybe I don't want it there. Maybe I want to drag this page up to the top. So I've got my planning dashboard where I just have my ideas. I've got my unscheduled content. I've got my scheduled content. And then when I'm actually taking action, I can come into here. I'm going to change this to full width, and I can see exactly which tasks there are. And maybe I want to have, I'm going to make this look more like a dashboard where I have content tasks, and this I'm going to turn into a heading. I'm going to bring this up here, and then I'm going to copy, which remember, if you hold down Option or Alt, you can just drag. I'm going to make a column, and this column, I'm going to say upcoming content, and let's just drag that over a little. I'm going to put the task database in here. And remember, this is already filtered so that I can see everything here. And upcoming content, I can add my content database. So I'm going to say create linked database, which you can also copy the link of databases, by the way. For those of you who know how to do that, you might prefer that. So now I've got this content database. Let's widen it just so I can assign. So I'm going to have some properties. I'm going to filter this so that I'm only seeing where the date is. I'm going to say either today or actually I'm going to show you a group. I'm going to turn this into a group where the date is today or the date is within the next month. So now I've filtered it. So only stuff that's either today or the next month is going to show up in this list. And I'm also going to sort it by date. There we go. And let's see, for properties, because now these properties are showing up in alphabetical order again, I am going to grab this, and under properties is where I can rearrange it. So maybe I want to see the date that this is. I don't need to see who it's assigned to or the clothing. Maybe I don't need the description here or the link because it doesn't have a link yet. I could have the platform, the status. Maybe I want to have the status actually up here. So you can do this stuff and have it like that. So now I've got the date that I can see. I can see the idea. And let's make this a small text page. So here's an example where you might have your upcoming content on one side where you can see exactly what's coming up and in what date. And then on this side, you can see all of the tasks that you actually have to do. So that would be maybe another example where you are just on the planning dashboard in order to schedule and plan out your content calendar, your editorial calendar. But when you're actually getting into work, you can go to this page and you can start working on the things that you actually have to do. That's an option. For me, I actually will go into my content dashboard and click on the video. So if I have an upcoming video here, I just open this as a page and I just get to work. And if I want, I can click on this, I can jump into this task, create my outline, create my overlays, and start just checking these off as I do them. So that is an option that you can do as well. And actually I do have on my personal dashboard, I have today's tasks. And so any content task that has to be done today is going to show up in my dashboard, and we can show that in a later one. I see a question here. Let's take a look. Would you have all tasks, business and personal, in one database or separate and have the, so I have them all in the same. What I have decided to do is have all tasks in the same database, and then I have so personal and work, but because I have that delineation, is it work or personal, I can filter. And so on my dashboard, let me see, I'm just going to take a look if there's anything, if it's okay to show my own space, because obviously I use it for personal. I want to make sure it would be okay to show. Let's just move a couple of things. Yeah, I don't think there's anything super private in here. Yeah, I don't mind you guys seeing this. Okay, I'll collapse that. So let's take a look. I'm going to move this one. Okay, ask. Please hold for one moment. I will show you my own personal homepage, but I just need to tidy it up. Okay, so here is an example. Let's show you my headquarters. Okay, I'm gonna bring this over. I think it's okay. It's mostly content today. Well, I mean, it's Saturday. So this is my headquarters, and I set this up so that I have my work actions and my personal actions. And so it's Saturday, so I have a lot more things on my personal list for today. But you can see where I actually am working. So there's this current live stream is one of the areas, but I also am doing some prep for a new video for next week. I'm going to do that today. So all of my things here are, so if I open this, create and prep assets, this is for, oh, that's weird that that's showing up there. That shouldn't be on there. That was for last week. So I'm doing a video on loopback for bringing Ecamm into Zoom. And so that is where I have that in here. And so all of these exercises, or not exercises, all these activities are in here. On most weekdays, it's Saturday, I will actually organize these in order. So if this is the most important thing I'm doing, I say that it's first. Why is that not filtering? I must have removed that filter. I did. So usually so this is my filter where the date is today. This is work. It is not done yet. I'm going to add back my big three. So where big three is, oh no, that's my sort. Never mind. I'm going to remove that. I got confused. So my sort, I did remove this sort the other day when I was rearranging something. So I have big three is ascending. So as soon as I say this is my first priority for the day, maybe this is my second priority for the day, this is my third priority. So you can see, and these are all content, so they're all green. And so I have all my this is my content creation dashboard is green. So when I have a task that's green, this is related to content. Client getting, which is really audience building, is always pink. And so this is related to pink if I want to get in front of more people. Admin is going to be gray. Planning and action is red. Learning and development is orange. Product development, things like my course, that is yellow. client serving because I have clients. If I'm doing work for them, then I am doing, that's going to be purple. And then personal. So this is all my actions that are filtered for personal. This is orange, which means it's learning and development, because I sometimes like to just consider something personal. This probably Notion API videos is probably more technically work, but I love it. So it's under my personal. So you can see, and then actually this is an example. You can see where meal plan, this is one where each week, when I have meal plan, I'll just reset this. So if I do meal planning today, so every weekend, I will actually just go and update the date to next week, so that I'm not recreating a meal plan one every single week. And down here, you can see there's my calendar view. And so everything for today shows up in my calendar view, but this is filtered. So it's only things that haven't been done yet. So this means that everything on these days has been either completed or I moved it to another day. I have upcoming tasks, tomorrow's actions, personal tasks, also content. I have this filtered so that everything is within the month or today, so that I can see on my dashboard exactly which content is coming up. And I have my projects that I'm working on. I do a daily gratitude. I track my workouts. This is my dashboard. That's my headquarters. So hopefully that helps with understanding how I organize my content. Also, that was the dark mode appearance. Doesn't that help with understanding? So right now, because I'm doing a live build, I'm just building out this, focusing on content creation. But as you start to use Notion a little bit more, if you have other projects that you're working on, if you want to be tracking different things, like if you are creating a product or a course or you work with clients, you can have different pages that are dedicated to those things. And then you can create one master dashboard where you're just pulling in, okay, what am I doing today? What are the highlights that I need to see? But when I go into my content dashboard, let's actually just take a look. Maybe I can show you that. Yeah, so just trying to think if there's anything in here that's private. No, I don't think so. Okay, I'm gonna pull this back. So if I am on my dashboard, so let's go back to this dashboard. So, and I call this 2.0 because I totally revamped my headquarters. So if I click on content creation, this is my content creation dashboard where I have all of my upcoming tasks. So this is everything that has a date. I don't know why some of these are duplicating with 2 different videos, but I'll have to figure that out. And then I've got my calendar view and my unscheduled. So exactly what I teach you, I have in my area. Here's all of the videos that are scheduled right now. So you can see all 4 of my Notion live build stuff. If I want to go in and just see what are all the links that I have for my other videos, that will slowly update because of course. So this is filtered where there is a link. So link is not empty. And this is for my Cat Mulvihill channel. And it's sorted by descending date. So the most recent video is at the top. And if I go back, if I ever want to send someone a video, I can just go and I can grab the video and then I can send them the link really easily. So this is an example of my personal content creation dashboard, in case anyone is wondering. All right. So, okay. So yeah. So thank you. Great input. That is how I organize mine. Shane, I love it. Very helpful. Thank you. Your icons are cool. So yeah, my icons, I made those in Canva. So what I like to do, I have a Canva Pro account, which I highly recommend if you are regularly creating content or thumbnails or any of that stuff. So I will go into Canva and maybe I can show you. Let's start a new window. There we go. And let's do Canva. All right. So over here, what I will do, so there is someone, Ben Smith, who is a great Notion person, has all the Notion colors. So maybe I can share that with you. And so he has a template in Notion where it has all the colors. So what I will do is I'll do a custom size. I'll do 280 by 280. And honestly, I just look for shapes. So a friend of mine used a hexagon and I loved it. So I went into elements and I just searched hexagon. And I just looked through here until I found a shape. Oh, and I wanted it static. So I did static, apply filters. And then I went through here and just looked, okay, what are the hexagon ones that I like? This was one that I found that I really liked. And so I just changed the colors to the Notion colors, but you could pick whatever colors you want. And then I just went through and said, okay, are there any other shapes that I like? And I think the other one that I did is in here. This one was kind of cool, but you can't change these colors. But it is, if you like rainbow color, that's a cool one. Let's just see if I can find the other one that I really like. Also, if you have a free account, you can still do, I think, some pretty basic stuff with this. I'm not seeing it. Here it is. This is the one that I use in a lot of my pages that I really like. So what I did here is just, I have, because when you have the pro account, you can have different color palettes. So I uploaded all of the Notion colors into Canva, and then I'll just say, okay, I want this one to be orange. And then I just duplicate this page and I say, okay, I want this one, go back down to my Notion colors. I want this to be green, and you just keep duplicating it. And then when I go to export them, I say transparent background. And that's how they come out with no background, and you just have all of those colors that you like. So I do recommend, I think even if you Google Notion hex codes, you'll find all of the Notion colors to be able to make your own icons. And so I'll just, a note on that is I really do like color coding my information, so my tasks, because now whenever I look at what I'm doing today, whenever I look at my tasks, I can see exactly what type of task it is. Is it an admin task? Is it a personal task? Is it learning related, content related? Is it for my clients? And that way I can have all of that really easy. And my brain now is just so used to it. And then I also have, let me just switch my camera for a second. I also use the Timular tracker, which is this guy. And so this tracks my time and what I'm doing. And so, for example, I have this one I use I could color code these because they do have colors, but I put these stickers on before actually coming up with this color scheme in my Notion. But all the different sides kind of represent the same thing. So this brain is learning and development. And so I switch this depending on what I'm doing. So right now it's content. So the star should be up, and it tracks. All you do is you flip the tracker to what you're working on. And then I can actually get a really good idea of what did I spend my week doing. So let's take a look back at, let me go back here and just take a look. Did I do what I said I was going to do? So we looked at checklists for your content creation tasks. We looked at relating a database. So we related our content to our tasks database. We looked at how you can handle recurring content tasks. So you can either update the date, you can use the template button, you could just use the template button on its own, or you can link it to your content 2 different ways. And how do you connect those tasks? So I showed you in here how you can do this just by dragging and having the filter set to whichever video you want to make, or my preferred way, and which is what I have been doing week to week, is by having the template with that linked task database directly in the template. Okay, are there any lingering questions before I wrap up? What is that? Oh, wonderful tracker. Yes, it is wonderful. Let me actually I will put that in the chat. And for anyone who's not live, it is the Timular tracker. And I just got it, I want to say 3 or 4 weeks ago, and I love it. So there, I just put that in the chat. So Shane, you're asking about Notion. They don't have, to my knowledge, they do not have it. It's so affordable that I don't think they have that program. Maybe I'm wrong. If you are interested in Notion Mastery, I do have an affiliate link for that course, which is amazing. And that's where I learn all of my expertise. So you could always connect with me and I can share that with you. Okay, any other last things before we go? Covered all those different topics and showed you Canva, which is such a great tool. And it really is my preferred way to make my space my own, to color code it, and to have all those things. And so I really do recommend that as well. But thank you so much for all of you who joined me. And I didn't have any buffering issues thanks to my new modem. And next week, as you maybe saw here, part 3, this is where I'm going to talk about how you can do a similar thing with social media tracking. So having a social media database where you can have which content, like how are you promoting your content, other related databases that you might want to consider connecting for content. So we'll give you a few examples. If you are a content creator that's established, there are going to be other things, for example, B-roll, maybe technology, sponsors, guests. There are a lot of other things that you can incorporate into your content creation database and kind of build that out. And then also, how do we organize? What's the difference between using maybe a relation and a tag when you're sorting and organizing your content? Because you might have a related database like guests, but if you want to quickly organize, so we would just, it's just more of a systems question. How do I want to organize my information? So that will be on part 3. And I see Patrick, when working on custom API, reach out. Yes, if you are comfortable with API stuff, the beta, the Notion API beta is out, and it's pretty exciting. I get excited easily, so really, I mean, it's a low bar, but I don't know, when the API came out on Thursday, it kind of felt like Christmas for a lot of Notion enthusiasts, that now we can send information to our calendar or send an email into Notion and just do a lot more stuff. So I'd love to see what people are doing and what they're coming up with. So Patrick, definitely keep me posted on that. And for everyone else, hopefully I will see you back next week for part 3. Bye.